Royalty. Royalty. I was in a joke.
And it's not a book like she explained the book. Like, it's not a book that you're just going to read through. Sorry. I'm kind of...
Bible in my hand. Word inside my heart. And pain before my eyes.
So I'm going to use it, and as I use it today, you'll actually see how it works. Okay, I got some notes. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. I find it hard, like I went through my mind, and not kidding, because this is a thing for me, I don't know how other people are. When something's good, I'm like, can we just go home? Like, you're good, you came for what you came for, right? That's a hard one to follow. You made it really difficult for me. And so, just being in this space and opening up and feeling. Sometimes as women, we don't get to feel each other.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that we share, and there's a lot of interconnecting and intersecting that we all have. And to be in a space and be able to first feel you all, because that was probably over the past few weeks preparing for this the hardest thing for me. And I get to speak regularly and speak in front of people I know. When I'm online, nobody's there but me. I know me. But when you get ready to get up in front of a room full of people and now you're feeling their energy, it's difficult to prepare ahead of time when you haven't felt them first. And so that was tough. I was just like, okay, I need you to send what you have for them to me. It's easy when you say, blanket, this works for everybody, but now it's like it becomes specific. And to be in here and to feel everything and to feel the spirit, not just the ruach, but just the tone of the room, has confirmed for me even more so what I'm going to talk about. So I am grateful, one, to be here. I'm grateful for you all that came out from close and far. It's far for me, close for some of you, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate everyone who sends emails, even if I don't answer them on time, and everyone who prays and everyone who supports, because that is what allows us to happen. What we are experiencing as a collective of women in Zion who are waking up to this truth is a readjustment and a reapplication for some of things that we've held to be true for so long. It's not that things are no longer true, it's just that the things are now renewed. And when you renew something, just like anything, you go back to it and you have to reassess what you signed up for in the first place. Because a lot of us signed up for this walk under the guise of Christianity. And so some of us are like, well, not much has changed about my commitment as much as now my understanding of my commitment is now different, right? And then for some of us, it might be like, this was never on the table. I was kind of in and out, and now I'm really, for the first time, standing in a place where I can actually receive what the Father has for me. And it's both the same. There's no different, because we all have to do the same thing and go back. And so today, if you have one of those cool folders, I said cool because they're cool. If you have on one side is a Hebrew chart, and on the other side is the actual outline of what we're going to talk about today. And if you are not familiar with Hebrew, don't worry about what I'm getting ready to do. You know, when you first learn something, it doesn't always make sense the first time. It's like, I heard people say, you'll catch this one on the way home. Because sometimes things have to sit, and you have to experience them sometimes. Maybe they're not a part of your personal experience, and sometimes you have to hear them and then hear yourself think about them and process them before they actually take a concrete place in your mind and in your heart. So if I use words, or if I say things you're like, I don't know Hebrew, this don't even apply to me. Yes, it does. Now I tell you the reason why it does is because words mean things. The universe is constructed of the word of Yah. He spoke everything into existence, so everything obeys a command based upon a word that is spoken. So if I give you a word and it doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't change how it's going to apply once you internalize it, right? So as I'm saying things, you might feel flooded or drowning sometimes. You might be like, this is too much. I don't get it. I'm like, system shut off. It's okay. Your ear's still here. It's the cool thing about ears, you have two of them. And when your brain stops processing, the ears can't stop listening. And so they're taking in these things into your subconscious, and you'll begin, and they'll come to your remembrance over time. They come to your remembrance over time. So I'll use some things, because the reason I'm saying is I'm using a lot of Hebrew words today, but I'm not going to do like I do online and explain every single one in detail. I'm going to use these words, I'm going to redefine them, because you probably have a definition for them. I'm going to redefine them in the correct way so that when you go forward in Scripture, you will then be using those definitions as the working definition for your study. And the reason why I say go forward is because I don't think it could be any more fitting for us to talk about renewing and starting over and opening up and setting out on a new path without starting in Genesis. And everybody goes, I know it's in Genesis. And I'm like, maybe you do. Maybe you know exactly what I'm getting ready to say. Then you need to help me. And if you don't, it's going to set in place and reestablish everything that you've ever thought, not only about yourself, but about how Scripture is organized and what your place in Scripture is. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. I'm probably not going to use that, but I'll talk about it. It's not in my hand. Okay, so if you have your outline, pull it out. And the first thing we're going to cover, and I am long-winded. See, you guys get like an edited version, not the actual version. So somebody needs to be keeping track of time, because this, to me, there's nothing else more important than this to me. So I could talk all day. I don't have all day, but I could. Because to me, when it comes to the word and understanding it and knowing how serious it is, there's nothing else on my watch that's more important. I could do this every day, all day, and I wouldn't get tired. I'd probably get overwhelmed, but I wouldn't get tired. So, yes, there's pencils. If somebody needs a pencil, they're in this basket. Watch yourself on fire. So, just keep that in mind. We'll try not to be boring. I don't think I'm boring, but I'm biased. Okay, so I want to cover a couple of things because, once again, we're going back to the beginning. We're readjusting. And so the first thing we're going to readjust is the way we think. Okay? Because we live in a Western society, we have been taught to think linear. Does anybody know what linear means? Linear is from point A to point B. From start to finish, okay? And we handle everything in our lives like that, which is partially the reason that as a people who are attached to the Creator and His creation, we are always frustrated. Because when you think of something being in a straight line, anything that deviates from that straight line is then dysfunctional, and because it's dysfunctional, it makes you frustrated. Yah does not operate in a westernized linear way of thinking. Yah is cyclical. Everything is in cycles. As women, we should understand this probably better than anyone because we live in a cyclical manner. We do things in a cyclical manner. We don't, we talk about men and we say they have a one-track mind, right? Because they think of something and they complete that thing. And nothing normally deviates them from completing that thing. Like you could be like, I'm talking to you, but I'm watching this. And he's like, Now us, I'm watching TV. I'm actually listening to you talk, and I'm folding clothes, and because we are able to multitask, because tasks don't operate in a linear fashion. Some people are like that. Some people are wired where they're like, I have to do this, and then I can move on to this, and then I can move on to this. But most of us are doing 50 million things at one time because that's how we are wired to operate. Okay? So Scripture is wired in a cyclical way, where things come around. Okay? So, because religion has been put into a westernized mind, and it has been placed under the guise of westernized thinking, then we think of our walk as linear. where we're trying to make it from here to here. And so anything that causes you to have to go back is somehow a loss in time, right? So when you're reading and you've made it to Revelation and somebody says, now go back to Genesis, you go, I just came from there. You know, and it's like, no. Everything is supposed to then lead you back. There is a scripture, actually, for that, and I'll use this one a few times. I'll give it to you. It's in Isaiah, I believe. I'm jumping pages because it's way over here. Okay, Isaiah 46 and 10. Isaiah 46 and 10 says, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do my pleasure. This is Yah talking, right? So he's saying, I'm telling you what's going to happen in the end from what took place in the beginning. So if you are on a linear thinking mind and anything about turning back makes you think that you are losing, then you will never go back to the beginning, which means you'll never know the end. He's not playing a trick on you. He's like, the game is easy. I already told you what everything's going to be. You got to know the beginning. So what happens a lot of times in Westernized religion, the reason why I don't say Christianity, because it's not always Christianity, although a lot of things have turned into Christianity, and then I know a lot of people don't share the similar experience with Christianity that some of us do. So they might have a pastor that taught Hebrew, and they might have a pastor that did all these things. They might have a pastor that kept the feast days. So for me to then just say Christianity, what I'm saying may not apply to a person if their experience is not the experience of the common black Christian experience. So I say religion in general, where it is constructed and organized by man with a Western thinking mind in order to get you to do and act a certain way based upon how they define and explain things. Okay? So when we go back to the beginning, which is not often done in Christianity, because the whole point is you don't have to go back there, that's done. And what Yah is saying is, oh no, we're going back there because that is where my function is set up. Everything with words, and especially with us as a people, has to do with function. We think functionally, and we've been indoctrinated to think the opposite. For instance, if something works for, like, okay, let's take describing something. We call people names based upon what they look like and what they do. They'd be like, oh, that's black. Why you call it black? It's black. Like, we do that as a people because everything is based upon what it does. So that's a physical description, so that would be similar to form. But if you say, I'm trying to think of something that's not extremely offensive because we say some things that you just can't say. But if you have a person that acts a certain way, you describe them based upon their action. We nickname our kids. You're like, that's Scooter. Why? Well, he was just scooting around. It's stuck. Like, it's just what it is. Like, your baby's name is Texas. Like, his name is not Texas, though, but he's nicknamed Texas. Like, what about Texas made somebody call him what he is? So we do that naturally to people. Okay, so what we're going to establish from the beginning, and I know this may be a stretch mentally, but I promise you, if we stretch, it'll wrap around some things, and it'll fit, it'll make sense. The stretch mentally is that the law existed before Sinai. Okay? Let that sink in. The law existed, Torah, in its function, existed before it was given in a written form. Okay? I don't have to, I'm a mother. I don't have to write down everything that I say to my kid. Well, first of all, I can't read. The three of us. I don't have to write down everything I say to them for them to understand that what I said is what I mean, and it's not to be violated and broken. And it stays and it doesn't change, right? So in the beginning, when Yah establishes creation, one of the things that a lot of us get caught up with when we're dealing with Genesis, we're always trying to figure out, well, why? Well, why? And Yah's like, for real? Like, seriously? But why? There is a why, and there is an answer to the why. But the first thing that is established in the book of Genesis from the beginning is, in the beginning, Yah created. The first thing he wants you to understand before you ask why is, I did it. That's the why. That's your first answer. So because I did it, I have the say-so over everything after, in the beginning, Yah created. Right? So I have dominion over everything. Earth doesn't have dominion. Time doesn't have dominion. I'm first. And so as I begin to carry out the function and give function to everything, I'm doing it right because I'm right. It's my creation. So for me, like right now, if you come to my house and I cook something, you go, why'd you make that? You don't have to eat it. Like, why are you even here telling me what I should do in my house? It's mine. I like this food. You came over to my house. This is what you're having. So the same way with Yah, he's like, I don't care if you don't like. I don't care if you don't understand. But the first thing he's establishing is, it's my house, and I did it the way I wanted to do it. And you can read it and understand why I did it that way, but you don't get to change how I did it. Okay? So the title, give me the title. What a long introduction to catch the title. The title is, I can't remember, so somebody read it off your paper. It was good in the beginning, but now what? It was good in the beginning. One of the issues that we have, like I said, is that we don't like to go backwards. We're like, that's the beginning. When everybody's, you play red light, green light, and you're like, go. You're like, green, red. And you gotta go back, like, I don't want to play no more. Like, that's how we are. That's how we're set up as a people. It's just our base nature. And no harm, no foul to anyone, but that's how we're set up. And so, in the beginning, it was good, but now what? Right? If it was good, and then somehow things got off track, the last thing anybody want to do, even though it's off track, is to say, let me just go back to square one. My mom's a cosmetologist. She's in the back. Say, hey, girl. Hey, girl. And one of the things I would hear her say growing up when she worked in the salon is, you have to go back to the fundamentals. Right? The foundation of any good hairstyle is a great haircut. You would hear these things over and over, and you're like, that makes sense. Now it makes more sense. But it makes sense but if you're a master stylist, nobody ever thinks that the master stylist goes back and gets a book and go, okay, so what is the actual formula for an asymmetric bob? You think she's just like, I got this, but then sometimes you deviate. You have to go, let me go back to the basics. Let me go back to the fundamentals, because the fundamentals of the foundation are what create function for that style, and obviously function in creation. Okay, so in modern religion, we're told that the beginning is no good anymore. It's no good. Yah did it, and it's no good. I'm going to give you some verses. I'm going to read them. After I'm done, I will upload this, because there are a bunch of verses. I want you to be trying to write down everything I'm going to say. Okay, so the question then is, was the beginning good? Was it? Was not. Okay? I'm going to give you the beginning from the beginning. We're going to start in Genesis 1 and figure out, was the beginning good? Genesis 1:4. Now once you find one, you just go down with it and read it. Genesis 1:4. And I am skipping around a little bit. And if you have not read Genesis chapter 1, not in that way. Read it, please. Read it. And if I see you again, you ain't read it. This one is actually, an audio Bible is 3 minutes. 3 minutes is the first chapter of Genesis. You got 3 minutes. We all got 3 minutes. I almost feel like we got 3 minutes to read it right. I'm about to read it. Just in case, like we were talking about this earlier. One does not progress unless we all progress. So if I skip over 1 and go to 4 right now, like I was getting ready to do, then I'm leaving somebody behind that don't know 1, 2, and 3. And that didn't help none of us, because then somebody's gonna be, we all of them be clapping, they're gonna be like, yeah, it's not right. Okay. It says, in the beginning, Yah created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Yah moved upon the face of the waters. And Yah said, let there be light, and there was light. So what we're going to do, since I'm going to read through it, is every time it says, and it was good, just raise your hand. Okay? That's what we're going to do. So that I can just keep reading, okay? So that we know that it's there. So I don't have to do it. Okay. And Yah saw the light, that it was good. And Yah divided the light from the darkness. And Yah called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And evening and the morning was the first day. Now I'm saying Yah, and actually I'm being intellectually dishonest. It actually says Elohim, so I'm going to say Elohim. It's just something I can't explain to you right now. So it's the same, but I'm going to say Elohim just for textual truth, since I'm phrasing out something. And Elohim said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And Elohim made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And Elohim called the firmament heaven, and evening and morning were the second day. And Elohim said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. And Elohim called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, and the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after its own kind, whose seed is in itself, upon the earth, and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and herb, yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind, and Elohim saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. And Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and it was so. And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And Elohim set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And Elohim said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that have life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And Elohim created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the fowls multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth living creatures after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beasts of the earth after his kind, and it was so. And Elohim made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim created he him, male and female he created he them. And Elohim blessed them, and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And Elohim said, behold, I give you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which is fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it is to be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And Elohim saw everything that he had made, and behold, let's read that together. It was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, Elohim ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which Elohim created and made. Okay. So now we're all on the same page. It's a little long, but now we're on the same page. It was good. Did I say it was good? No. He said it was good, right? So if it was good, what's so bad about it? Right? If it was good, then what's so bad about it? We have a problem then if he says it's good, and then somebody comes along and says, no, it's bad. One of the issues I have, and the reason why I am very, very rigid, I think, when it comes to how I fluctuate one way or another on scripture is because when it's all said and done, and time has concluded for all of us, and when we stand before the judge, the question that the judge is going to ask in regards to his law, because everything that he set forth, from the very moment he spoke, he said it and it happened. Which means that it wasn't a suggestion. He's like, does light want to shine? Let me know. Or you'll see or not. You know, it was a command and it happened. Which means that it's law. Right. It wasn't, nobody had a choice on whether what he said did what he said it was going to do. So because it's law, right, then you are held accountable for how you act when it comes to his instruction, right? So when you stand before the judge and he says, so in the beginning, I gave everything, and I'm going to give you the function next, because chapter 2 actually gives you the function of everything. There's like this huge theological argument about chapter 1 and chapter 2, and I'm like, detail? Like, it's right there. So he's going to give you the function in more detail of each of these things, and we're going to specifically focus on that in a moment. But when the Father says, so why did you not listen to what I said? I said it was good. You're going to say, well, somebody told me it was bad. And you're like, but I said it was good. See you later. Like, that's it. There's no, like, going back and forth. Well, I know you said it was good, but I said it was good. Like, if Jay or Ari comes to me and I say, hey, go get up and do X, Y, and Z, and then one of you guys say, oh, no, baby, it's okay. I got that. Right. Right. She already knows. Like, it's over because I said to do it, and nobody changes what I said to do, especially if it's good. I didn't tell you to do something. Now, if I told her to go outside and wait for a car to come hit her, yeah, somebody please, I'm out of my mind, stop me. But if I tell her, hey, take your trash, pick it up, and I want you to do it, then you don't have to do that. I got it. That one's mine. I appreciate you. But she needs to throw her trash away. That's how the Father is when it comes to us. He's like, yes, I created in the beginning me. Okay, not in the beginning me and then your pastor. Not in the beginning me and your Maury. Not in the beginning me and your best friend. It was just me all by myself. Thank you. And I said it was good. It don't change. Okay, so I'm going to use the word for good. So the word for good is a cool word because it's one of those words that actually aligns with what we think it is. So when he says it was good, I might take it, right? Okay. There we go. Okay. Tet, vav, bet. You have that chart. We can go through it really quick so you can see how it kind of works. You can use it later. So if you look for a tet in the block script, it should look a little bit like that. Mine's ready. But tet is this idea of, can somebody read off their sheet? The simple surround, contain. All right, so it's this idea of to hold in, to contain. So basket, to surround. It's the idea of surrounding. Okay, Bob is a connecting point. So look on the front Bob, it's going to be like and, connect, join together, secure, right? And then bet is house, in, dwelling, womb, Okay, so tov is the word. Tov means good. We say we translate it as good. But the actual translation of that word is functional. So every time the Most High is saying, and it was good, he was saying, I told you to do something, it did it, and it worked. I'm not saying, oh, you know what? Because we do that. We'll do something raggedy. Right. That's good. that's how we do. If he does something, which he can't, but if just to save her adventure, yeah, I could do something that wasn't right, gotta fix that. Gotta start over, because that don't work. Something wrong with that, right? And we're actually see something like that in a second, because obviously this all ties back to us and our function. So he saw it, he goes, that is functional. I said it worked, now look at it, and then watch it work, and it's not gonna change. Once something is functional, there's no need to go back and fix something that's not broken, right? So when he says it, so now when you see that, every time you read it, he goes, and it was good, he goes, and it was functional. And it was functional, and it was functional, and it was functional, and it was functional. There was nothing wrong with it. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. It was perfect. Okay? So, We're gonna go on. So he gets man, he says, let us make man in our likeness and our image. I'll give you these briefly, I'm not gonna go through and explain it like I have it on here. But this idea of making man this image and his likeness, the word is selem, right? He made man in a representation of himself. Okay? And then that's his image, right? So what Yah thinks of himself is how he made man. For a reason. For a reason, because when Yah decides to enter into space and time, he has to enter into a form that is what? Good. That's functional. So he creates man in a functional way that allows him to carry out the function that he is going to carry out when he enters into the human experience, if you will. Okay? So that's why. He doesn't make man his likes and images like, oh, I'm God. No, he makes you like that so that when he has to step into the avatar called man, that when he gets like, oh, okay, hands work. Okay, this will do. And then he goes out and accomplishes what he is sought to accomplish with the functionality being complete. Okay? So that means that even though man has fallen, the function of the body is still good. You break it. Every time a baby is born, a baby is functioning and it's optimal, a perfectly functioning baby. It's functioning perfectly. Just as it was created to function at creation. We put junk into them, and we do things, and then we break it. Right? But man is still operating in its correct function as far as his body is. Okay? So in likeness, he created man in this similar image, the image that he had projected forward, and then thought is that idea of likeness. So man was supposed to think higher than the animals. The animals in that text are called bohema, right? And it deals with this idea that in it is what it is. It is what it is. But a cow is what it is. But man was created to operate higher than a beast. Higher than the base nature. You don't just do what you think and do what you feel. You have a governor and you do things and you handle things in a way that doesn't disrupt or hurt that around you for any reason. So when you see Yah later on in the text, he talks about certain races and nations of people. He says they're like brute beasts. They just do stuff just because. Like, you just killed all the buffalo? All the buffalo. Like, not just some of them, all the buffalo. Like, why? Why? You operating at a base nature. That was not in the original design. So that's dysfunctional. Okay, so that's that same way men are created, men and women are created, and they're told to multiply. They're replicating after their own kind. Okay, so human people produce human babies. That's the functional way. Oranges produce oranges, apples produce apples. That's how we get down, because those things are set up from creation. If you ever want to know whether or not the genetic count is real, go find an orange and tell me if it's an apple now. Right. Go find a lemon and tell me if it's a lemon now. Now crossbreeding, we get into a whole other world. That's not functional. Right. Function is after its own kind. Okay? So lemons, guess what they're still doing? From the beginning of time, they are still producing lemons. Because he said it was good. And apples are still producing apples, but somehow we wild grapes and strange fruit, we don't, something went wrong. It was good and then it went bad. Okay. So male and female, he created them. So I'm going to write these words down. So you have male, when it says male, it's the Hebrew word zakar. Yah is very, this is my whole point, period, literally. Yah is very specific in the Genesis account because he's giving you your function, and if any time you get away from your function, you need to go back to it, okay? So I'm going to give you some terms that are going to seem very, very crass, a little bit, like not cool, like, oh my gosh, can't believe that, but it's in the Bible, so I'm going to say it. He's very, very intentional because he doesn't want you to miss what it is that he's saying, okay? So male and female, okay, so we're going to get to woman and man. Male and female, which is the actual physical function of your body, right? This is going to be fun. So you have the word zakar for man, and you have the word nakab for woman. I'm not going to break them down, but if you want to break them down individually, then you can. Zakar, Zayin is a cloud, Ka on the hand, resh, head, Literally the words the car means to remember in like a English term, but it actually is an idea of to plow or to put deep lines into the soil so that that thing that passed through is remembered. Any of y'all old enough, you know what I'm talking about. And then nakab for woman is literally a hole. It literally means a hole. So from the beginning, it was supposed to be somebody plowing and somebody with a hole. And that hole better have a wound because there's a bet there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He didn't leave any room for like, but I'm in love. He's like, no, plow, wound. See, like he was straightforward. He was like, y'all play too much. So let me go ahead and just set it up this way so that there is no room for confusion on what I was doing. The reason why I even pointed that out is not even, it's functional, but the reason why I pointed that out is because we stay out of the Old Testament, quote unquote, in a lot of circles with the Bible and in modern religion, because if you start digging in Hebrew, that's like, we do Greek. I know, because Greeks do each other. I turned into a husband. That was not what I was going to say. He can't help himself. It's weird. Yes, you do it the Greek way, because the Greek way is the reason why we have a lot of the ambiguity and the ability to say what something means or change what it means. With Yah, it's not that way. And so the reason why church or modern religion doesn't want to go back to the Hebrew is because then the confusion's gone. And you can't say, I know my choir director is homosexual, I know he's a beautiful man, but isn't it all about love? And I'm like, but first, we haven't even got to love yet, but first, he said, male and female, he created them. This is the function, and then that's it. It's a little segue, sidebar, but tie tribute, honestly, even though what he was saying was like, whatever, what he said made a lot of sense. He was somebody asking a question about homosexuality. And his response was actually a functional response. It's like the first time I've seen a person in that arena who has to deal with that type of pressure in a functional response. He said, what I tell people is, can you do it? Well, yes, you can. But is it, and then he said to God, is it God's best for you? Right? And that kind of just cheat him. Makes you think, I'm not going to get into what you feel and what your lifestyle is. Is it his best? His best is total. This is his best. Okay, so is it something that can do, is it something you can do? Yes. Does it feel good? I don't know, maybe yeah. Pork tastes good, so I'm going to say yeah. But is it his best? Because he only wants you to have his best. Don't you want his best? Yes. And then it makes you put in that place of like, so you either say, no, I don't want his best, so you don't want him, or yes, I want his best, so I need to go back to it. Okay. So Genesis 1:31. Okay, he says, and it was very good. So chapter 2, we're not going to read through chapter 2 because there's some, you need to kind of read through that because I think that's beautiful to see where your land is and where creation took place. It's wonderful. Okay, Genesis 2:7-8. That's what we're going to get to. We're going to get into the meat now of exactly what this. You saw function. You saw that it was good. Now we're going to look at these creations called man and woman. Okay. It's going to give you a more detailed account. All it tells you in chapter 1 is that he made man in his likeness and his image, and that was what it was. Male and female, he created them. But you don't see how. Everybody says sometimes can you just mind your own business and just stop questioning before you just be quiet, keep reading, and he will answer your question because I know somebody thought it. It was like, but how? He's like, make it a chapter 2. Because if you get stuck in chapter 1 trying to figure out how, guess what? You will never find out. You'll get this, but you want to figure out the how. And then the next thing is how and why. He's gracious. He's like, oh, you want the how? I got you. I can just keep going. Okay, Genesis 2:7-8. And Yahuwah formed man of the dust of the ground. Here's your how. And breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And Yahuwah Elohim planted a garden, eastward of the garden. There he put the man whom he had formed. Reading for understanding is something that school doesn't really teach us anymore. Sometimes it does, but we're not taught to read and then ask questions as we read, right? Because in this text it says, he formed man from the dust of the ground. Okay, so we need to know what formed means and what the ground is, right? Okay, so I'm going to give you those briefly. So formed, right? This idea of formed for the man is this word for, why is it word like just literally, my brain went blank, completely blank. The word formed is yitzar. There we go. I'll say it out loud. Hear myself say it. I think I know the math here. Somebody want to give me something else? Okay, yod. Okay, so literally yitzar, and it means the idea for the man is that, thank you, right there. The word is literally to be pressed. So man is made from the ground. Ground is Adamah. And I have lessons on this. Actually, I will post this. So the ground is Adamah. He's Adam. You see how when you hear something in Hebrew, it immediately gives you a connection and where it makes sense? Yeah. Adam, Adamah. Maybe they're related. Right? Right? So the ground was the feminine form of Adam. So he was taken out of the ground, which is feminine. Right? And of that dust that he took from the ground, the Most High formed it or pressed it, made man, and then breathed into him and became a living soul. Okay? Interestingly enough, the breath of Yah in this sense is not this word ruah. It's the word nefesh. Nefesh. In English, N-E-P-H-E-S-H. Nefesh. It's not the word ruah. Okay? Difference. And of this nefesh, what is life in man? You know what life is? There's a verse for this. Life. There's a verse that tells us what life is. It says, the verse says, life is in the blood. Right? So in whatever he breathed, in that breath was also life. So he made man a living soul. He became alive. Okay? So man was Yitzhar, he was pressed, he was formed, made into this image, okay? And then it says, he placed him in the garden. So we also know that man was made outside of the garden. And then placed in the garden. And then he placed him in the garden, and I'm just fast forwarding, and he gives him something to do. So this whole idea of like, oh, he looked good. Okay, but there's a step missing. Yes. Toe. Yeah. But does he have a job? Does he have a place to live? Like these are things that are functional, right? Like, yes. We can't get him a job and then give him a place to live and then be like, oh, that's functional because he got a job, he got somewhere to live, but he worked for you and he live in your house. No, that'll work. So Yah makes him by himself, gives him a place to have dominion over, gives him a job, gives him a function, right? And he says, and Yah took man, put him in the garden to dress it and to keep it. Function. He gives him two things to do. You're supposed to dress it and keep it. You don't just plant a seed and be like, right? No, you dress it. If you plant a seed, guess what? You raise it too. He gave him function. So everything outside of that is dysfunctional. Yep. Right? He's dysfunctional. If he gave babies and left them, dysfunctional wasn't the original intent. Okay, so we're out of function. So if we never come back to this, guess what? No man knows what is function because the common function that has been set up in society now is that's okay. I just do it by myself. Like that's how because that is how we've been conditioned to accept it, although based upon the original count, that's not functional. It's dysfunctional, and we know it. My mom was a single mom. Mom, was it dysfunctional? Very. Okay. I'm not lying. And okay. That's so that was Genesis 2:15 where he gave him a job. Okay? Now, after all this, we got all these verses. It was good, it was good, it was good. It was functional, it was functional, it was functional. He created man, he made him. We're in the detailed account, we're in Genesis 2. We get to 2:18 and we see something that we have not seen before. Let's read it together. And Yahuwah Elohim said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him. So So he wasn't like, oh, what am I gonna do? Everything for me is a woman, clearly. Very, very much. Okay, so he wasn't lonely. He had a job. He had stuff to do. Like, he was busy, pretty much. Alone is different from lonely. Let a man want to be with you because he don't want to be alone and not because he's lonely. See the difference? Yes. Right? I'm not lonely. I got stuff to do. I got a job. I got business. I'm running my life. Like, but I like it when I'm with you. See, it's different. It's different than like, I ain't got nobody and it's cuffing season and Netflix and chill. Like, is he white? Right. She said he white. My slang is bad. It's terrible. It is. I try. My sister uses so far. She's like, stick to what you do. Okay, so it was not good. So it is not functional then for a man to be by himself. Right? It's not functional. It doesn't work. Okay? So it says, so he gives him this job and he gives him all these things to do. And so if you go to verse 20, it says, and Adam gave names to the cattle and the fowls of the air and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helpmeet for him. That word comes up again. The reason why, all that to get here, how much time do I have? Go ahead, girl. Okay. This is my, literally, this is where we are. The reason why we have an issue as women, with our role as women, is because somebody in Europe, at some time or another, gave us a definition for this that was incorrect. Somebody who did not understand function, somebody who did not understand form, and then they actually changed it a little bit because they said help mate. So then all I am is just like a help to mate. Right. Yeah. Like, I am so much more than mating. I have a brain, you know? Like, right. But somebody somewhere along the line made this word help me to help mate. And then called it help me, which is English. So all of a sudden you're like, okay, so that can then be interpreted by somebody as whatever they want to do. You need to help me meet what? So for him it could be like, look, me and my husband have this thing. Tora has helped us. You don't even understand. We said this thing where like, say this is his phone, somebody would like text or something. Respond to this. Right. Answer this email. And after a while, I was like, can we reassess what a helpmeet is? I feel like I'm a secretary. And I don't know if that's exactly what Juwan, her Hebrew name, the life giver Juwan, was doing for Adam. Is that, did y'all really want me to be like, answer his emails, and feed him, and have sex with him? Ta-da! I was like, this just don't feel right. But I'm okay, but maybe not. Just, can I kind of say maybe not? Like, so this, the defining of this word is going to immediately, and there's more to it, because I'm going to give you 2 words. This is going to immediately change what the function of a woman. And I'm not just saying this in a room full of women because there won't be men talk this. It's before I even came here, one of the conversations that I had with my husband that we had together. We've had this conversation. I've had this conversation at him a lot, but it was the first time that we had this conversation together where it was his idea. He was like, you know what? I should be teaching this. Well, not like that. He wasn't saying, you know what? He said, Mom, you know what? I should teach this to the men. Like, if you tell the women that, then I was like, you're right. Yeah. So it's not something that's just being talked about in this room for that purpose. That's what it was. Okay, so the idea of a helpmeet then is okay. So I'll tell you what this is because I have it right here. So what I did was I did a survey like 2 years ago online, and I asked women to tell me words that are constantly pushed on you for you to function under, but that you don't know how. Like people are saying, submit. What is submit? Submit Be humble. What you think humble is. Be meek. What you think meek is. Be quiet. What you think quiet is. And all these words. And immediately, I started to feel the same thing they were feeling. I was like, I don't think the people that are asking us, mainly men and women who are teaching predominantly what men tell them to teach, I don't think they really know what they're asking, and it's causing dysfunction because it's making me hate all the things that I can see in Scripture I'm supposed to be doing them, but how you're telling me to do it doesn't make any sense. And so instead of me telling you again what to do, I just took all the words and all the definitions and all the Hebrew, and I even translated the Greek words into Hebrew, into the original language. I read the book. So now you go, okay, help. Study number 11. So it says, the word is azar, or azar, right? And it means to restrain. It means to support. It means to ally. It means to progress. It also means to help reduce responsibilities. And it also means to surround them and keep them protected. So we're always told that we need a protector. But he wasn't lonely and he wasn't soft. So then what am I supposed to be protecting him from? See how it begins to immediately give you all these other things. Okay, so it has to do with this idea of somebody that's supposed to restrain and protect. But there's another word used in this text. And the word is actually, it says, ezer neged. Now he's up in my head. It's ezer negedo. Yeah, my husband is ghetto, so he was like, is it negado? I was like, no, it's not. But that's how he's like, why did you? He's like, that's what it sounded like. That's not what I said. I know that's not what I said. He's like, that's what it sounded like. So she was a nigga. That was for you when you watched this. That was for the shameless love. So it literally meant that the Most High was going to make him, it literally means to sit face to face, so a mirrored image. Right? Where she's his equal, but his opposite. Right? So it wasn't, the woman wasn't an afterthought. I'm going to kind of skip over this part because I want to get to my point. When Yah said he took from the rib and made woman, it wasn't he's like, let me take this small, insignificant piece, and I'm going to make woman out of that. That wasn't his point. And then we'll get back to this, help me. So when he takes the rib out and he makes the woman, right? The piece that he took out of Adam was this, Yah does this a lot too. And you don't see it unless you understand or you read Hebrew. And that's why that's my push. Because there's the verse, and it's the second page of your sheet. And it's our third part of the packet. Maybe the last one. It's a sentence in Hebrew on the last page. There it is. And so he takes out a rib. The rib is the word selah, right? And he takes out one rib, right? So in English, he took out one rib, he made woman. So you're like, dang, just one? Can you get 6? Like, not good enough for 6, right? The reason why he took out one, in Hebrew, everything is categorized into masculine and feminine, right? Not male and female, but masculine and feminine. And so objects, if I count a woman, so if I count objects, I count them in the feminine. But if a man counts objects, he's going to count them in the masculine. He's a man counting objects. Now, if that object, though, is a feminine object, then you count it in the feminine. When he took out one rib, he didn't take out echad, which was masculine, one rib. He took out achat, so one feminine rib. Somehow, when Yah created man, he already knew he was going to make woman. But he had to first establish man by himself to give us that picture of functionality and then bring her into the equation. Because they had made it at the same time. He's like, well, we both working then, right? We both got the same responsibilities at the same level. He's like, I'm going to put this piece in you. And then once you understand, you see that this is not functional because Adam looked around, there was no one for him, right? Once you see that for you to be alone is dysfunctional, then will I do this so that every man from now till forever will understand this picture. He took out that feminine piece in the form of a rib from Adam and created a woman out of that. And when he created her, because he made her as his ezer negedo, he gave it a function by saying, this is what I'm going to make for him. He didn't say, I'm going to make a woman. He said, I'm going to make a helpmeet. He said, suitable for him. Okay? So it was his mirrored image. I'm going to complement you. I'm going to be this to you. I'm going to be everything that you need. And likewise, not just one way, you'll be everything that I need. Right? And so it carries with it this idea of when he saw her, right? When you're going to see the functionality that's going to come out of his mouth. Adam, brilliant. Smarter than all of us. Brilliant. When he saw her, he spoke her functionality. Like he agreed with Yah, right? So when he saw the woman, he goes, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Right? He immediately saw himself in her. A lot of the issue that we have today in our relationships is that the men don't see themselves in us. We're going to read through some New Testament verses as we end. And we're going to see that this was the call back to the beginning functionality. When we're getting the Titus and the Timothy, they're not coming up with rules for Christian women. They were trying to point everyone back, because when you are in the proper function, it preserves our nation. On both ends, not just for the woman. He was like, dude, you have to treat her like this. And you have to be like this, because this is the functionality and this is how our nation is sustained. It's sustained when we operate in function. If we're not functional, then we fall apart, and then the world falls apart. It's a great responsibility that each and every one of us bear. The world is literally sitting on your shoulders. Sorry to tell you. As you go, so goes the world. When we sag, the world sags. When we twerk, the world twerks. As we go, so goes everybody else. When we wrap our heads, guess what? White girls wrap their heads. When we start keeping the Shabbat, guess what? White people start keeping the Shabbat. Why? Because we are the light of the world. We were given the function. As we go, everyone else goes. So as our families go, yeah, they can make it put on TV like their family not dysfunctional 10 times more. So, and their dysfunction then trickles down to us, and then they raise their dysfunctional children that come to schools and shoot us up, or lynch our people, or become cops and shoot each other, and then shoot us. As we go, so they go. It's hard for us as a people to take responsibility for the plight of the world, but it's because of our disobedience and because we are out of our proper place as women and men of Zion that these things in the world are happening. Because if we don't keep to order, nobody feels like they have to. Like if I'm at my house, my mom says to wash the dishes. I'm gonna wash the dishes, make a mess. Then guess what my friends gonna do when they come? They're gonna treat my house the same way I treat my house. But people always say it's clean, like, wow, you're like, oh, no, yeah. They're like, oh, when you go over her house, make sure that you, why? How you treat your law is how they treat your law. Okay. All right. Okay, so the next thing he does, so we got the idea that man was formed, right? So the scripture then says in, my verse is missing. It says, and he built woman, took the rib, and then built woman. What verse is that? 21. So he took the rib, and then he built it. The idea of built, right? He built the rib. It's the word banah, right? So he gives a function in building the woman. When he built her, he banah, right? Bet, noon, hay, right? He built something that is a womb that would house the seed. And the idea of hay is to direct something upward. Would house the seed and then direct the seed to, that's her function. So she's built in the way that she receives from him, not only physical seed, but also spiritual seed as well. That's seen throughout scripture. She receives the seed, she nurtures it in her womb, she gives birth to it, and then she directs that seed for the Father. That's the woman's function. So she's made as a helpmeet, because what? Guess what? He can't do that by himself. How can he be like, I'm tending the garden, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm also breastfeeding and changing diapers? It's not going to work, right? And there is obviously that function of she is the child's first teacher. Yeah. She is the child's first encounter with God. The first time. So if that picture is dysfunctional, then how much harder is it to receive Torah later on in life? Right? If the father is dysfunctional, I'm a daughter, then how am I going to receive a male father? I really don't vibe with you, yeah? Because my dad, all I have is what I have as my picture. So those pictures and that beginning function has to be in place so that when I encounter the father, I know how to reverence him, I know to respect him, and I know that he's present. Right? And then when I encounter this idea of a mother, I know that this is the function. My mom is telling me, here's a dime bag, you sell some dope. Like, that doesn't really work for me because then everything else is skewed from that point. If my mom is telling me, oh no, you gotta get yours, then as that is skewed, then the law, like I said, obey the law or obey the instruction of your mother's instruction is contrary to Torah, then you're not going to respect and keep Torah. So if this beginning picture is not functional, it's not tov, right? Then it's off. I mean, the opposite of tov. Opposite of tov is ra. It's for all of my Egyptologist friends. The opposite of good is ra. And it's actually, the word means dysfunction. The opposite of good or tov is dysfunction. It means it doesn't operate in function. Okay? Alright, so we know from Isaiah 46:10 then that the end, the goal, right? Because the end is not the end, right? We're not linear. The goal is in a race, if it's on a track, if I run the 400, my goal is to get back to the starting line, right? Cyclical. So if the goal is to get back to the start, the end is then declared at the beginning. My goal is declared at the beginning. I want to get back to that beginning biblical picture where there's function and there's communion and perfection with Yah. The only time there's communion and perfection with Yah is when we're operating in that original function. To not go back to the beginning is to then say, I don't want to operate in communion with Yah. There's a verse, and it's in my list of verses. I believe it's 2 Peter. And he talks about this. Your communion with Yah, as women and men, I think it's 1 Peter 3. Talks about this idea that if you are operating in dysfunction when it comes to your function as male and female, especially male, but definitely female in the complete context, Yah didn't hear your prayers. You're like, but I'm praying for my husband, but you're being dysfunctional. He's not going to do it because how dare I fix him and you broke? You like, I want him to be saved. All right. I was like, we're waiting. We're waiting. Right? Why? Because you would break it. If he fixed him and you saying that you are in communion with him can't get you together, then you would break that. Right? So I'm going to hold off on him. Yeah, he's ready. But I'm going to work on you. That's what it says. Let's lead him with our word. How about we work on your actions? Y'all always puts everything back on us. One of the hardest things for me to deal with in the beginning of this walk was that y'all was waiting on me. That was hard for me. I was like, but this is not right, and this is not right. And this is like, and you not, and you not, and you not, and you not. And I'm like, but I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about him. You're right. Like, that's where I was. But y'all was like, no, I got him. He's not like you. Where the thing with us is, the reason why I believe that's what God does with us first in a lot of instances is because we can make or break the whole deal. Yes. It's true. It's happened throughout Scripture. I would dare somebody to argue me down. If you follow our women throughout Scripture, positive and negative, we can make or break. We can make or break the whole nation based upon how we are. Jeremiah was trying to preach. He's like, repent. We're getting ready to go to Babylon. And the woman was like, well, we can ready to go to heaven. And she give us stuff. And he was like, and our husbands know too. That's literally what their response was. And we were like, yeah, she mean though. You know, like we have or break our nation if our hearts are not in the right place, right? And then we do it, not because so much that we control the men, because maybe we feel like, I'm done with you, because it's happening in scripture, but we do it because we teach our idolatry to our children. Right? And so, and it doesn't matter what the man says, you gotta go to work, and when you gone, we put up this Christmas tree. You know what I mean? Like, and when you come home and take it out, you gotta leave again. And then we go to my mama's house, because she down with it too. You know, like, we can make or break our own nation with our own hands. Okay? So he talks about in 1 Peter, he talks about the idea that your prayers are good. Because if you're not operating a function with one another, right? If you don't love your brother, how do you pray when you fix that? And then come back. And that also deals with the person you're with. Your friends, your everything. Why? Because you don't progress without one another. Okay? Alright. Getting to this point. So, 1 Corinthians, now that we understand the functionality of man and woman, we're going to read through some of these verses and see if we feel a little bit different. Because it kind of feels weird the first time you read 1 Corinthians 11:9. You're like, I don't feel right. But now that you know the function and that you know that it is cyclical, right? It's going to feel a little different. But I'm going to go back just a little bit because I want to go to the idea of the fall. Now that we know that this was good, what we're told in modern religion is that because of the fall, everything changes, right? That's not true. If you go to Genesis 3:14, where I started verse 14, I'm going to show you that everything doesn't change just because man fails at functionality. The function doesn't change because he said it was very good, period. Tov meo is what it is. Very good. Okay, so we see that function is carried all the way through past man's fall, and it's something that we should strive to every day. Okay, so if we look at the curses of Genesis, I'm going to give you them with new eyes, fresh with new eyes. Genesis 3:14 says, And Yahuwah Elohim said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, above every beast of the field, upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust thou shalt eat all the days of thy life. What does that change about a serpent? I hear all of them say, he was a serpent, he was a dragon, and then he became a serpent. I'll go on to the next verse. Now, you tell me if he changes anything about the function of everything. And he said, and I will put enmity, so he gives him what his original function was. This is your function. He's supposed to be his name. You ain't supposed to be talking. You ain't supposed to be letting say things to you. Get your function back right. Okay? And then he gives him the curse. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Curse. Function, let me correct you. You ain't supposed to be talking, people. Function back. On your belly, dust. That's your place. Yes. Gone. Okay? And unto the woman, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. And in sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and your desire shall be to your husband, and shall rule over thee. Her function was to multiply. Here's your function back, but now your function has difficulty attached to it. Does it change the fact that you still have to have babies? It hurts now. Don't have any babies. Nope, it's going to hurt. Now you still have to have babies. And he says, your desire shall be toward your husband. Function. But now he's going to roll over you because now he has to fight against your inclination to deceive him. Right? You're still going to have desire for him, but now it's going to be kind of hard to love him because he's going to be like, I don't really trust you. Right? Okay? So then he goes to Adam. He said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, the reason why, and hast eaten of the tree, which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of, that is law, it's a commandment. He says, cursed is the ground for thy sake. So Adam's job was always to work the ground, right? Right? But now it's cursed. And he says, and now, he said, in sorrow thou shalt eat of it all of thy days. Now you have to work. It just popped up. Like literally in the garden, water came up from the ground. He didn't have to like pray for rain or water came up and then it just put on fruit. It just did what it was supposed to do. But now you gotta work it. And he says, thorns also and thistles shall bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread. Thou shalt return unto the ground, for out of it thou wast taken, for in dust thou nothing changed about their function, it just became more difficult. So if nothing changes about the function when the law is broken, right? He gives the same remedy. What was the remedy that Yah gave to man in the garden when he broke the law? What did he do? Man was naked and then he did what? So he had their sacrifice. Did the sacrifice change how they had to be obedient to Yah's law? So, peradventure, let's just pretend like maybe at some time Yah is then going to come along and do the same exact thing because man still hasn't got it right. Does the sacrifice then change how man is to be obedient to Yah's law? In the beginning, he gave the same prescription. In the end, he gave the same one, but it didn't change what their function was and what their relationship was to his law. Okay, so that idea of function. Okay, so that was kind of complicated, but I'm going to read you these verses so that now you can see. I'm going to read these verses on this idea of the law of the woman and how our women of old, our ancestors, kept the law and kept the function even though we had fallen, because it was them keeping the law that allows us to be literally here, right here today. So it says, Genesis 17:6, and I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. If kings are coming out of a man, they have to pass through a woman. Function, right? Function. It says Genesis 17:16, and I will bless her, this is Sarah, and give thee a son of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be the mother of nations, and kings shall be from her. Function doesn't change. So guess what they had to do? She had to be obedient to Yah's word, to his law, for this to come about. Okay, Genesis 22:17, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed, as the stars of heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gates of his enemies. All right, and then this is Ruth. Ruth 4. We're going to see this idea of our ancestors looking back at the women of old and seeing something very, very, very unique, and they follow it. This is Ruth. Okay, Ruth chapter 4. And it says, when I start at verse 11. So the women are talking to Ruth after she is then taken to be the wife of Boaz. And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses, Yahuwah make the woman that is coming to thine house like Rachel or Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel, and do thou worthily in Ephrathah, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let thy house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bare to Judah, that the seed which Yahuwah shall give thee of this young woman. This idea that this function doesn't change. I'll give you a little cue on Boaz. We're going to go back and study it. Boaz first speaks Torah before he actually looks at Ruth. His first action was to do the law of the widow and the orphan, which is to let her glean. He wasn't like doing it like, oh, I'm going to get her. His first thing was, I need to keep Torah. She's a widow. Oh, make sure I'll leave a little behind. This wasn't like some oh, I'm going to get her now. He wasn't even thinking in those terms. He was doing Torah first. So once again, he's showing that original function. Okay, so Deuteronomy 4, 5, and 10, actually I'm just coming in here. This idea of returning back to the beginning to get our function is always needs to be on our mind. Deuteronomy chapter 4. Because in doing so, it is how we restore our vision, and it is how we then show the fame of Yah. Okay? It says, behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as Yahuwah, my Elohim, commanded me, that ye should do so in the land where you go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great who hath Yah so nigh to them as their Elohim, as Yah, Yahuwah, our Elohim, is in all things that we call upon him for? Only take heed to thyself and keep thy soul diligently things which thine eyes have seen, lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life, but teach them to thy sons and thy sons' sons, especially the day that stoodest before Yahuwah Elohim, our Elohim in Horeb, when Yahuwah said unto me, gather me the people therefore, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me in all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children. It says, thus saith, and I'm going to give you another verse, Jeremiah 6:16, says, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, stand ye in the ways, and see, and ask for the old path, where is the good way, the functional way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they have said, we will not walk therein. Okay? So I'm going to give you these verses. And now that you see this idea of functionality, and you hear these verses that are normally given to us as women, can you see now how they function? Okay, 1 Timothy 3:11. In the same way the women were to be worthy of respect, not malicious talkers, but temperate and trustworthy in everything. Function. We'll get back to the beginning, right? Proverbs 11:16. A kind-hearted woman gains honor, but ruthless men gain only wealth. Proverbs 14:1. The wise woman builds her house, but with her own hands the foolish one tears it down. Dysfunction and function. You see that balance. Proverbs 19:13. A foolish child is a father's ruin, and a quarrelsome wife is like the constant dripping of a leaky roof. Proverbs 21:9. Better to live on the corner of the roof than to share a house with a quarrelsome wife. Proverbs 21:19. Better to live in a desert than to live with a quarrelsome wife. I feel like I don't live anywhere but here. Ephesians 5:22 and 23. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to Yahuwah, for the husband is the head of the wife, as the Hamashiach is the head of the body, or of the called out assembly. His body, of which he is salvation. Right? Wives, in the same way, submit yourselves to your own husbands, 1 Peter 3, so that if any of them do not believe the word, they may be won over without the words by the behavior, the function of their wives when they see the purity and reverence in your life. Titus 2:3-5. Likewise, teach the older women to be reverent in the way that they live, not to be slanderers or addicted to much wine, but to teach what is good. Good. Then they can urge the younger women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled and pure, to be busy at home, to be kind, to be subject to their husbands, so that no one will malign or misuse or misrepresent the word of Yah. Okay, so you get it. That's the way. We're teaching all of Torah. One of my passions is that when we learn how to do it the right way, we got to start from the beginning, learn ourselves all the way through, because there's so much more, like I could produce the pages, but there's so much there, and there's so much for us, and it's so rich. And there's so much functionality, but we have been taught to function in dysfunction, which is not function at all. It's like, it's wrong. And so going back to that, now you can see, okay, if this is being taught to the men, as it's being taught to us, then you can see walking around your house and be like, this feels kind of different. Right? Like, it begins to live, and it brings forth life, and it sends forth a picture that Yah is trying to get the world to see about himself. It's not about us. It's about him. It's about him. Okay. That's it.
Royalty. Royalty. Power to the chosen people. Bible in my hand.